Hey, Suzanne, we are live back here in the home office for one day this week. How you doing?
Just one day, but it's a great day.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you could join me today. I'm glad all of you could join us out there today at another episode of No Vacancy Today. We are live, but tomorrow, Suzanne, I've got a very exciting afternoon. Very exciting because I think tomorrow I'm going to be the honorary duck master at the Peabody.
Tomorrow. Oh my goodness. I can't wait. Y'all know I used to work for Peabody Hotel Group. So I used to grow up in the Kissimmee version of it. And I'm really excited for you,
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm also excited to be joining Wayne Tabor, the president of the Memphis Hotel and Lodging Association, on his barbecue team during the Memphis in May competition. So come out to, I think it's at Liberty Park, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll be out there. You'll see me actually working for live-in, doing stuff with ribs. Then it's off to Las Vegas.
Wait, does this mean you're going to have rubber gloves on and get your hands on the meat?
I'm in it, baby. Oh, and by the way, our other show, Friday Night Audit, our great co-host, Craig Sullivan. I think our guest, Anna Blue, is on this week. I'll be doing it there from Memphis.
Definitely tune in at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
So speaking of Las Vegas, Suzanne, I am such a Las Vegas design geek, right? You all think it's because of the food and all the fun, but no, it's really about the design. And I am a sucker for all the consumer behavior that goes behind it. It's why, I love teaching that stuff at NYU back in the day, for example, Susie. So what I love is how well these buildings are thought out, not only from that consumer flow perspective, but also from a profitability perspective. That's why I like talking about these massive projects, because all of these things will give you clues on how to rethink about your business. And that's why today we've got Jake Zwaagstra, with CEO and founder of TriCelta Development, who's worked on amazing projects that you may know. His property called Cosmopolitan Las Vegas, the former Hard Rock, now Virgin Hotels Las Vegas, Signature in Las Vegas, Choctaw Casino, Durant. The list goes on. Jake, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Look forward to the conversation.
Well, or I just talk the entire time and don't shut up. So Suzanne, that's exactly what Suzanne is thinking right now. So
this is unfortunately Glenn's element of enthusiasm. So yes,
I know. I almost feel bad. Just so everybody knows, I asked Suzanne just before we went on air to come on, but now I'm thinking, oh, what a jerk, because now she's got to fight to get in some words here. But when you're creating these amazing properties or helping people create them, it really comes down to the fact that you're an owner's rep. And that's one of those things that we don't really talk about. No one's on stage going, "Ooh, owner's rep." So what is an owner's rep, and why should we all be thinking about owner's reps?
So owner's rep is, that is the question that takes over a lot of my day in having these type of conversations. So an owner's rep is that push button easy, push the easy button for people so that they can say, hey, maybe you don't have
hold on. I just got a cease and desist letter from the people at Staples. So we're going to have to go with a different saying.
Well, so the owner's rep, they run the development. So they're that easy button. I'll say it anyway, but it's that if you don't have that internal team, if you need help in supplementing your teams, we come in and we manage literally back of the napkin to keys in hand. All aspects of design, all aspects of putting the right team together, the engagement of pulling the right resources in during the project so that you have those key points and moments to deliver just outstanding properties. We manage the entire process. So we literally push that easy button.
Yep. Suzanne?
Well, I guess, help us understand a little bit different than just relying per se on a general contractor. So yes, you take it from the back of the napkin to the execution, but why might an owner think differently about the services that you provide to make that experience great?
And Jake, as a neophyte in this, the word advocate is coming to mind.
We are an advocate. We have our staff are very seasoned individuals that have backgrounds across the board. They have operational backgrounds, general contracting backgrounds, design backgrounds. And so we see the project from all of those different lens types. So, if you have, for instance, a general contractor on board, they're experts at building, right? And so you need to have that lens. But in that same piece, we need to be able to have the conversation to say what's best for the operators, what's best for the bankers and the financial guys on the project, what's best for the guest, not lose the whole reason why we're building this to provide an excellent hospitality experience for the guest. So we bring an advocacy for each of those types of voices really to the table. So, at the most basic definition, we are an advocate for the owner, but we shoulder the responsibility of really navigating the challenges that come with the project. So making sure there's best return on investment, making sure that obviously budget, schedule, quality are taken into account, but we're an extension of the owner's team. So they have that advocacy at all aspects of the development. And it's a large role. There's, we herd the cats on these large.
Jake, I can imagine it's probably a larger enough thing at select service hotel construction project du jour. But when we're talking about building massive projects, multiple hotel towers, casino space, other entertainment facilities, blah, 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 parking, all of that, then you really need to have a unified approach, because there's no way one individual from one department is going to be able to see that big 360 scope. And that's kind of where you come in to be able to make sure that it all, I think, works harmoniously from both the design experience and construction standpoint.
Could have said it better myself. We bring the right parties to the table throughout the project to ensure that everyone has a voice, and that at the end, everyone is happy with their voice being heard throughout the duration of the project and the deliverable that's brought on board. So, hiring an owner's rep really allows you, from an owner, to have well-informed decisions and ultimately mitigate your risk. That's what our job is. Our job is to mitigate risk.
So in that vein, when you get started, when is the best time period to bring on that owner's rep? From the concept process to before you've gone with certain design elements, because really you've got that 360 view and you see it differently than just the owner might, or starting to deal with an interior designer and an architect.
You cannot bring us on early enough in the process, and I can't stress that enough.
Jake, I'm laughing because I've been hearing this for 30 years. Please bring these guys on early. Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Right. The earlier our teams can be brought on, the most amount of influence we can bring to ensuring the right process is set up, ensuring the right team is set up, ensuring value is driven to the owner from the get-go, not just when construction starts, not just when you've gotten halfway through design. Our job is to influence and to inform our owners of, hey, what's the best decision that drives an ROI? What's the best decision that manages your risk? And sometimes it's even pieces of managing reputational risk, right? If you do a certain item, there's follow-on domino effects, and we want to make sure owners are well informed in that process.
All right, so I'm not going to share the name of this particular property, and I'm not sure how this particular situation happened. And I will say it had nothing to do with the good folks over at TriCelta Development. There's one major casino resort project I visited, and the second floor was designed to have restaurants and all sorts of other things, but it was never successful. And they just basically closed off that whole second floor and don't utilize it anymore. As now that I'm thinking about it, there's another major casino resort that has a similar sort of problem out there. So it's like, if they get people like you in there to understand, they may not have made a multi-million-dollar mistake, because they probably didn't understand traffic patterns and the flow and how all of this works. And they were probably trying to put a square peg into a round hole solution for a particular piece of property that they had that had limitations, right?
Ultimately, all of these properties have some basis of amenity they always have to have, right? And finding the structure and the flow of those amenities feeding into your casino, feeding into your hotel, feeding into and making that piece work, it's an art, it's a science. And if you don't have a strong voice at the table, owners will listen to their design resources or listen to other groups that say, hey, yeah, let's just populate that there. Well, there has to be a robust review of that program to make sure that makes sense and is convenient for the guest. Because if it's not convenient for the guest, they're not going to do it. It's just human nature. If it's not convenient, if it doesn't scream,
yep,
hey, a third grader could figure this out, they won't do it. So you have to look at that lens and keep a simple basis of how do we structure this to make sure we get all of those elements, all of the program, all the amenities in, but we do it in a really thoughtful way within the program of these resorts.
I'll mention a thoughtful resort. I thought Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas was designed very thoughtfully. Though originally designed, no secret, as condos and then turned over to a traditional hotel product, the way that it was set up was it was one of those situations where it's a small piece of land, but you all figured it out in a way that created excitement on multiple levels and cut down on the amount of steps that anyone had to take to get there, which I think was a 1+1 kind of a 3 scenario that if you had all the land in the world, you probably wouldn't have. What was the thinking behind that sort of things? I'm sure you got to like get in a room with like John Unwin, the original president CEO and stuff like that at the time, right?
So Cosmo was it was the project that broke the mold, because every other project before that,
was in that garage style. So
large, spread out. You walk in a mile to get to everything, right? And that was the one that you just didn't have that basis, and that was on purpose, but then also not on purpose, because previously it was a condo project that was stacked, and so they had a postage stamp to work with, but they did an incredible job of really populating those amenities so that you didn't feel like you're going very far for really anything. You had the hotel towers, which really weren't that far. You had amenities like the pool decks, which were raised, which gave a whole different purview of Vegas and the Strip. And then they really stacked those restaurants on top of each other, which was easy for the guests to get to, but then also efficient when it came to structuring all of your equipment and lines. So it was just a very well thought out project, and we're incredibly grateful to be part of that. Gosh, it's been 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. It's been a while since that one opened. So
yeah, it really has been. It's one of those things that it just opened yesterday. What? 15 years?
So it was a great project to be part of.
And there was go on, Jake.
We had a phenomenal team. That project was the last project that happened before Vegas really kind of shut down, right?
That is correct. And he's referring to the Great Recession. As a matter of fact, I was honored enough to be at the grand opening party and I had such a great experience. I had the suite, the first time I got to stay on a balcony in modern Las Vegas, which is absolutely incredible. And I got to interview Rob Wilder, the then CEO of Think Food Group, which is now Jose Andres Group. And I got to know John Unwin a little bit. And I really got a sense of how different the approach was to this particular property than we had seen before. And that's kind of what you've done in Oklahoma with Durant, for example. So how do you all think about and test yourselves to keep changing that design dialogue and everything to keep ahead of consumer trends, as opposed to winding up as an also ran for like whatever property that was built in the traditional mode before Cosmopolitan opened?
Fantastic question. And it is a continual piece where we're always testing, always asking questions, always engaging. One of the pieces that, is typical on a project, you have a feasibility study, and it kind of tells you and evaluates the program itself. But one avenue that we specifically like to do, what's unique to us, is, most of these properties already have some basis of a property in place, and we're doing expansions. Well, they have a customer listening platform. They have a customer database, right? And so we have a very specific process where we plug in surveys based on amenities, based on what is needed and what is liked about the property, in the actual construction process. So we'll send something out and say, hey, we're building new rooms. What's key or important to you? And it helps amenitize those rooms so that when the guest shows up, they're like, hey, they actually listened to us.
Yeah.
We listen to what's important in this area, right? And even to a point of, so allow me to digress just for a second. But so on Choctaw, we went to the nth degree in making sure that we had the guest experience captured. So one of the most important things psychologically, when you're staying in a room, is making sure that your significant other is happy, right? And so one of those avenues was lighting. Lighting in a hotel room is crucial.
Yep.
And so we did individual mock-ups of lighting in the bathrooms. We did individual mock-ups of lighting in the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
We took surveys of what was important Kelvin color-wise of lighting. And then even went to the nth degree of, okay, when your significant other's in, getting ready in the bathroom, well, you don't want to be getting ready in the bathroom at the same time. So then we looked at, looking at the full length mirrors in the rooms themselves. And, if your wife heads out to start, using that full length mirror, she's got a hair dryer, she's got, her, things she has to plug in. So we place those full length mirrors there, make sure there's plugs right there. It made it very convenient so that when husband's getting ready in the shower, her hair is not getting steamed up, right? So it's little touches like that allow for the psychology of when you're leaving that room for everyone to feel like they're $1 million, so that when they take that down, to the casino, to play, to having that experience, the experience extends way beyond that first piece. It starts in the rooms, it starts in the check-in, it starts throughout that stay.
That is a real nugget of information, and to keep it Vegas, it's a golden nugget of information over there for you, because what you're talking about is trying to figure out ways to maximize profitability in your hotel. And a little thing like that, I think, is so interesting because it sets up consideration to make people feel good. They feel good. I don't know. I've seen 1,000 times that wallet seems to be a little bit looser and more open.
Wallet opens up, casino, benefits, food and beverage benefits, tips start flowing. When people have that experience, they may donate back to the casino, but they're going to have an experience that allows them to say, you know what, I had a great experience, I'm coming back. Which is the whole point, right?
I'm sorry. Go on, Jake.
I said that's the whole point, right? Getting individuals to have that experience, have a hospitality experience that brings them back to the property.
Right, Suzanne?
I was going to say frictionless. I would love to be the researcher in me would say, I'd love to see what the actual time saved was by having two people get ready essentially almost at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then what does that drive for revenue? But how, I guess, do you think about identifying these questions that you're reaching out to your guests and making sure that you're incorporating that into each element of design that you're doing so that it does bring on an ROI? I mean, sometimes the journey doesn't necessarily bring that on, but you have to look at that big picture.
So a couple different ways we look at that or target that. And the first avenue is usually, when you go buy a car, right, you want to test drive that car before you buy, right? So in the hospitality world, the best avenue to go test drive the car and see how those amenities relate, or you do model rooms. You set up the basis of, you build, the type of room, you provide different experiences, different finishes, different ways of experiencing that. And that model room process allows for you to go test drive that room, go test drive the different pieces and say, hey, what works, what doesn't work? We will literally build model rooms for clients that are full functioning. And we say, go take your housekeeper, go take your GM, go stay in the room.
Yeah.
Give us that real feedback. Give us hey, the shower hook doesn't work. or, hey, the spray on the shower, doesn't work, so you need a larger bath mat, or, hey, the light, when you go to turn off the lights, is too far from the bed. You need to move that in, or the wireless charging's not right. So those little intricate pieces all affect experience, right?
Right. And it's so important to do these sorts of things, because no matter how well things are thought through, customers or people utilizing it will use it in the way that they want to use it. And there's always lessons to be learned. Jake, I want to follow up with this. This expansion of the Choctaws in Durant was a massive. 1,000 hotel rooms, 2 additional movie theaters, 2 new swimming pools. I feel like you're doing everything in twos. 1 Starbucks is not good enough for you guys. No, you got 2 in the expansion over there. It makes sense on some level, but what is the thought process that goes behind something that seems crazy but is really well thought out?
So that is a great way to phrase things. The amenity piece is continually changing.
Yeah.
So for instance, on that project, we knew we needed that quick service coffee piece coming down straight from the hotel. We placed that directly right from the hotel, so you don't have to go very far for that experience and that quick touch point. But then there's also that kind of the gamer that's there the entire day. They don't want to have to walk all the way across the resort for their coffee. And so we really think about the amenity pieces and say, hey, does it make sense to structure to have 2 things so that, ultimately they're not distracted from the main play, which is the experience, right? And so the seats will continually change. The perfect example is, when we were designing that project, originally the steakhouse was on the bottom floor. And we started looking at this and saying, hey, what's the best experience for the consumer? What's most important from that? And we changed the steakhouse, moved it to the 2nd floor so they could oversee the pool, they could oversee the project. And you move the 3 meal to the 1st floor because it's convenient. People can walk in, walk out, grab food, right?
That sounds like a win-win.
Yeah, it's a win-win. And so there's flexibility that, as you are developing and building these projects, to make sure that we're always taking that lens and saying, okay, what's best for a consumer? How can we make life easier for them? How can we make it so where they say, I didn't have to wait really in line. I was able to pull food off quickly, that type of thing.
All right, here's one idea, Jake. Starbucks is slammed at casino resorts, and I try very hard to have friends that'll get me into the VIP lounges. I don't need to drink. I just want some coffee without a line. But I've been thinking about this issue a lot. Why can't Starbucks have a regular serve yourself coffee like I do at the Delta Sky Lounge, and then use some technology to just allow me to pay it on my own and do a little self-service thing for just a regular coffee?
I think you're onto something there. I think that's a great idea. There's got to be a way to simplify guys that want just coffee. Right?
Yeah, because there's such a long line in the mornings and they're so slammed, and there's got to be a labor-related issue there as well, right?
Right. Well, most, services aren't staffed heavily, especially in the mornings.
Yeah.
So you have to have something there. I think you're onto something. I think we pull that little nugget into some potential other projects, and
let me know.
I will let you know. You can come test it out.
That's all I ask. Is I just want to see a line and go, see you, suckers. Yeah.
I'll pay you commission in coffee. Yeah.
Hey, maybe we'll get people to stop drinking those frou-frou drinks and get more behind a real coffee, dark roast, black coffee.
There you go.
That's the only way to do it. Jake, what are you most passionate about right now? Is it something saving owners money? Is it some sort of consumer trend? What gets you going these days?
Well, we love providing a robust experience for our owners that's relationally driven.
Mm-hmm.
And so that hits all aspects, right? That's beneficial saving owners money. That's beneficial limiting their risks. It's beneficial getting product in the door so they can make revenue. But ultimately, the project still has to make money. The project still has to hit the metrics to either, on a commercial basis, it's financed, on a tribal basis, maybe it's opportunity cost. We're driven because we take these projects so personally. When we're engaged with our owners, we are literally lockstep living with them on these projects. And I look at these as if, and every single one of my staff look at these as if it's their money they're spending.
Right.
Because ultimately that money either goes to the bottom line of, the company, or if it's for a tribe, that money goes to the bottom line, providing services back to the tribe. So there's real impact that comes from the work that we do.
And ironically, that's exactly how you don't want the customers using the property to feel, hey, it's someone's expense account.
We don't want that at all. But we're very passionate about what we do. We take these projects personally. We buy in and we live at these projects because ultimately, there's a sense of pride in saying, you know what, we helped take this from, right out of the ground to an operational project. But then outside of that, we will even tap into our owners up to literally a year later to say, how did the project perform?
Right.
How did your staff like it? What didn't you like? So we're continually evaluating those pieces to make sure that we're plugged into what, the market is looking for, and where do we knock it out of the park, and where can we improve?
That's cool. Suzanne, got anything else for
I was going to say, from a standpoint of projects, what do you find either most rewarding or fulfilling to either do a tower or an add-on or a renovation versus a ground up new property?
So I'm going to go a little different route on this one. Every project that we've done over the last 10 or 15 years, wherever we've gone, we've found a way to get engaged in the local community.
Yep.
And that local engagement has driven real long-term value outside of just the development. So for instance, with when we were up at Choctaw, we found ways to partner with the Boys and Girls Club in the local community. And we're able to find ways to grow their presence and allow the vendors that we brought alongside us on that project to participate in that. And that delivered hundreds and hundreds of kids experiences that will live way beyond what that project does. And I think that piece is one of the most influential pieces that we do on every project. We find a way to get involved. We find a way to get back while we're there and beyond our experience at those projects. And that piece is very, very rewarding. We do that, pro bono. We try to provide value back outside of just the projects themselves. And that piece, I think, is important on these developments, to make sure that we don't lose sight of, the community itself benefiting, not just the property, not just the project owner.
Yeah, and these things help. I mean, Suzanne and Durant, they created 1,000 new permanent jobs throughout this project.
Yeah, makes a huge difference. And so all those people are benefiting not only from the project itself, but the local kids are benefiting. One thing that we do on every single project is we go find young talent, and we partner that young talent with our general contractor. So they'll partner with the electricians, with the mechanical, with plumbing guys, so that those guys understand the building as it's coming up. And then those technical roles are hired to go run the building after it's open. And so they get not only a pride of ownership in that they built their own building, but then they have the intricate knowledge to be able to take that and say, this is how this should be run effectively.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Great collaboration that way to really help support the general industry, not just developing one project and walking away. So kudos to you all.
Absolutely. No, it's a team effort for sure. It's not just us. We try to help and influence, but it takes a massive team to do these developments. So it's fun to watch them, come out of the ground and become real assets for owners.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm a geek, and we love watching these buildings. We've been having on the good folks behind the Gaylord Pacific on ever since they broke ground, and we've been like watching the whole thing get built, and now it's going to be opening very shortly. So we're excited about that.
We've got a couple in planning. Can't say anything now, but when they start coming out of the ground, I'll have to have you out, and you can come and see some of the real time efforts in play. So
yeah, I would actually love to be able to. Maybe we could partner on something and follow it from ground to open. That would be really, really cool.
Get really excited over that.
Yeah,
those are
for
all.
sure. Jake, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. And I encourage all of you guys, check out TriCeltaDevelopment.com, TriCeltaDevelopment.com. And while you're trying out things, hey, why not subscribe, watch, listen, follow us on the LinkedIn's, YouTubes, and all of those kind of places. Any final thought before we go?
I just think hotel development and design is a really integral and inspiring opportunity for young individuals to consider. And so I know I've got a class coming up in the fall, and so I think I have a guest speaker in the books today.
Oh, yeah. All right, everybody. While she's doing that, remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
Follow your passion.
see you all next time, which I don't know